Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Keith Ellison, and I do represent the great state of Minnesota. And tonight, I'm coming to the floor to talk about the progressive message. The Progressive Caucus, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, dedicated to ideas that some might describe as liberal, but all must recognize have benefited the United States over the course of time. To be liberal is to be open-minded, to be accepting of others, to listen to different points of view, and to try to be tolerant and inclusive of all people. But the progressive community in the United States and throughout our whole land is entitled to have a body of people in Congress who will reflect their views, and tonight we're coming together to offer these views. I'm proud to be able to take the floor tonight with the co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, Mr. Grijalva from the great state of Arizona, and he's making his way to a microphone. We're proud to have him at our leadership. But I did want to just point out before I hand it back to our chair that the Progressive Promise, Fairness for All, the Congressional Progressive Caucus offers progressive promise for all. We believe in government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Our fairness plan is rooted in our core principles, and it also embodies national priorities that are consistent with the values, needs, and hopes of all of our people, not just the powerful and the privileged. We pledge our unwavering commitment to these legislative priorities, and we will not rest until they become law. So when we talk about fighting for economic justice, we're talking about universal health care. We're talking about preserving guaranteed Social Security benefits for all Americans, including protecting private pensions and corporate accountability. We're talking about investing in America by creating new jobs in the U.S., by building affordable housing, rebuilding America's schools and physical infrastructure, just like you talked about a moment ago, Mr. Chairman of our Progressive Caucus, and cleaning up our environment and improving our homeland security. What we mean when we say economic security is about exporting more American products, not more American jobs, and we demand fair trade, not just free trade, and affirming freedom of association and enforcing the right to organize. You and I know that we'll probably be coming together here in one day in the future to talk about the Employee Free Choice Act. That's the right to organize in the labor union, but also to ensure working families can live above the poverty line and with dignity by raising and indexing the minimum wage. That's right. Chairman Grijalva, as you know, the Progressive Caucus is dedicated to preserving civil rights and civil liberties. That means we believe in sunsetting expiring provisions of the Patriot Act and bring remaining provisions into line with the Constitution. We believe to protect personal liberty of all Americans from unbridled police powers and unchecked government intrusion. That means unlawful surveillance, things like that, violation of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. We believe in extending the Voting Rights Act and reform the electoral process. We believe in fighting corporate consolidation of the media, because if the people don't know, how can they do anything about it? And also we believe in ensuring the enforcement of all legal rights in the workplace. That goes again to OSHA, things like that, so people don't get injured. We work hard for those rights. Isn't that right, Mr. Chairman? Well, I want to thank you for helping to outline those things. I think it's important as we come together for the progressive message, and that's our goal to come here week in and week out, that people know what the Progressive Caucus stands for, that they know what the Progressive Caucus will fight for, and that they have a chance to join in and participate. So now I think, Mr. Chairman, we're ready to talk about the main subject we're going to be talking about tonight, and that has to do with a report and that was recently issued called Reining in the Imperial Presidency. And what this is a document that's 500 pages drafted by Chairman John Conyers and his staff, lessons and recommendations relating to the presidency of George W. Bush, House Committee on Judiciary Staff, to report to John Conyers. And in this report, it lays out a whole series of issues that need to be addressed. And you know what, Chairman Grijalva, some people have said we don't want to look back, we don't want to dig up old dirt, we just want to let it go. I mean, we got a new president, why look back? But you know what, Chairman? I don't think we're looking back, because you and I never want to have to deal with another president in the future who thinks that because George W. Bush did these things, they can do them too. We're looking to the future. We don't want to set a precedent around illegal wiretapping, around domestic warrantless surveillance, around the U.S. attorney scandal, and things like that. And we'll get into this over the course of the next several minutes because we're going to be with the folks for about an hour. I guess we used up a little of our time. But that's what we're going to be really talking about and digging into today and tonight for the rest of the evening. You know what, Chairman Grijalva? I'm still holding in my hand a pretty thick piece of paper right here. This is 500 pages, all documenting allegations regarding abuses of power by the Bush administration. This thing is not designed, as you said, to try to settle old scores, but to get to the truth of the matter of what really happened. I mean, don't the American people deserve to know what Karl Rove would have said if he would have honored the subpoena that was lawfully served on him? Do the American people deserve to know what Harriet Miers and Josh Bolten would have said when the Judiciary Committee had a subpoena duly served on them where they were summoned to give testimony before the Judiciary Committee and they simply refused to show up? What would they have said? This is the kind of process we need to go into, and I think the American people deserve to know what the truth is, and I think that this very weighty report that you could probably work out with this thing. This thing is heavy, and it details allegations and it details the facts and information that cry out for answers. And so what we've done is not just come to talk about a problem, but really to discuss solution. House resolution, HR 104 is a bill that calls for a panel to do an investigative process to figure out what the truth is behind the allegations right here. Now, if nobody did anything wrong, then there won't be any problem and nobody should be concerned. But if there's some facts tied up in here that can be confirmed in this voluminous document, I think it only makes sense that we should pass HR 104 to really figure out what actually happened. What actually happened with regarding to allegations of torture and the torture memos that were written authorizing the torture of detainees? What happened with the extraordinary rendition when, Mr. Chairman, people were brought from the United States and sent to countries and were tortured in those countries where these countries aren't squeamish about torture? What happened with warrantless domestic surveillance? What happened with the U.S. Attorney scandal? These are things that need to happen. Well, Mr. Chairman, I mean, Josh Bolten, Karl Rove, and Harriet Miers were served with subpoenas to appear in front of the Judiciary Committee within the context of the law. We follow the rules when we authorize those subpoenas to be served upon them. And the White House told them not to come. Now, there may one day be a Republican administration, a Republican House. I mean, we're Democrats now, but one day things may change. Do we really want to set up a situation, no matter who's in charge, where an individual can simply scofflaw or skip over or just ignore a subpoena of the Judiciary Committee? I think it sets a horrible precedent no matter who is in charge of our government. And so I think you're right. This is a forward-looking process. This is not about settling scores. This is about setting the record straight. I think it's important that the American people really know what happened. I mean, extraordinary rendition. I was in a committee hearing one day when a man named Mahar Arar, who's a Canadian of Syrian ancestry, was explaining how he had come from Europe through New York and was on his way to Canada when he was scooped up by representatives of our government and then held incommunicado, sent to Syria, and was tortured and was eventually released. The Canadian government did a full investigation of the whole matter and came to the conclusion that they grabbed the wrong guy. Oops. Well, the fact is the Canadian government gave him a monetary award, but he could not come to the committee hearing and explain to us what actually happened to him. He had to appear by teleconference. Why? Because even our State Department, after they had been demonstrably made a mistake about who they had picked up, still refused to take him off of the watch list. My point is, these kind of things need a full hearing. These kind of things need a full airing. The rest of the world needs to know this is not how America does business. It was something that happened. We're not happy about it, but it happened.